You need to make dinner and you don't have the time, but you still gotta eat. By the time you decide what to order for takeout or delivery, you could have prepped one of these 4 recipes. In my case, I managed to injure myself playing pickleball a couple of weeks ago, and I can't be on my feet for very long. We've been making simple recipes just like these to get dinner going. They help us to eat well and save money. All 4 of these simple to prepare recipes can be found in my cookbook, Chinese Homestyle. I'm using 5 chicken legs here. I know you Americans call them chicken quarters. And you can use a whole chicken, use whatever you like, but our family prefers dark meat, so I am using all legs, and there's about just over 3 pounds worth of chicken here. I am cutting them into drumsticks and thighs. That's just to cut down my cook time. You can also leave them whole if you want. But we're going to bake them in the oven today instead of poaching them on the stove. I'm using a 9x13 baking pan, and I'm going to use a sheet of parchment paper. That will be easier to clean up in the end. All right, and I'm just going to arrange my chicken in the pan so that it all fits. It's like playing Tetris.
Yeah.
All right. You want the skin side up. And now we're just making the sauce. Super simple. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. 2 tablespoons of dark soy sauce. The dark soy sauce is what's going to help give it its color. 2 tablespoons of a Shaoxing wine, which is a rice wine. And if you don't have rice wine, you can use a sherry. We've used bourbon in its place, and it's delicious. 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce. 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. And about 1 tablespoon of ginger. And this is about ½ an ounce. And it's about the size of your thumb.
What kind of thumb are we talking about here?
What kind of thumb? Like, it's the same size as my thumb, sort of.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, it looked a bit swollen.
And if you don't like ginger, just omit it. Just mix up your sauce until the sugar has dissolved. And we're just going to pour it over the chicken. I'm trying to be equal opportunity to all chicken pieces. If I haven't said it before, it doesn't take much to get really, really delicious flavors at home in a very simple way. I'm going to pop this in a preheated 400-degree Fahrenheit oven, and we're going to flip the chicken pieces over at the 20-minute mark, and then at the 40-minute mark, we're going to flip them back to skin side up, and we're gonna leave it in there for another 10 minutes. So altogether, 50 minutes in the oven, flipping twice, and you will be amazed at how golden delicious it's gonna be. All right, you see how the skin just does not look great. So that's why we need to flip them so that it's touching the sauce. And that, my friends, is the secret. See how this is already golden color from being on the other side? So we're just going to get the rest of the skin into the sauce. All right, back in the oven for another 20 minutes, and then we're going to flip them once more. Oh my goodness, it looks so good. When you buy it in the stores, you're not going to get all the soy sauce and the juices for your rice. You only get this at home.
And don't forget, you know exactly what went into the sauce.
Yep.
Sorry, I wasn't 100 years old though.
We're just going to spoon out a piece of thigh, drizzle some sauce on the rice. So I have 4 shiitake mushrooms. They are fresh ones. So I find the fresh isn't as flavorful as the dried. If you have dried shiitake mushrooms, you can use those. And I'm taking off the stem because the stem I find is kind of hard to eat. If you're using the dried ones, just make sure that you rehydrate them before you use them. I'm just going to cube these up. And you don't have to if you don't want to. You can just slice it up thinly and add it to your pork. But for me, it's all about the mouthfeel. So I want all of my little bits in the pork to be about the same size. If you're using dried shiitake mushrooms, I would probably just use 2 of them because I do find them more flavorful than the fresh ones. I have 1 pound of lean ground pork, adding a tablespoon of soy sauce, just regular soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of rice wine. Rice wine is just a cooking wine. You can use Shaoxing wine if you like, or a dry sherry, or even bourbon, which we have been known to use in the past when we didn't have any. 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, a tablespoon of granulated sugar. That's just to help balance out the flavors because remember this dish is going to make a lot of sauce. Okay, 1/2 teaspoon of sesame oil and about 1/4 teaspoon of ground white pepper. If you don't have ground white pepper, you can use black pepper. It's just that ground white pepper has a little bit more of a heat to it. It's like a slow heat. It's not really spicy though. And I'm gonna add my mushrooms as well. And we're gonna stir it in one direction. Now my mom says that stirring it in one direction is important because if you stir it the other way, it will undo everything, which totally doesn't make sense. I think the reason for stirring it in one direction is that the pork will help form kind of strands so that the texture is better when you eat it. And you want to stir this until it's kind of sticky and all the ingredients are combined. I do find that the ground pork you get in an Asian market is not as finely ground as an American supermarket. So if you can get the, I guess, thicker ground pork, it's a better option, but regular ground pork is fine as well. I'm just gonna get my wok started. I have some water there along with a trivet. Make sure that the trivet has enough space between your plate and the water so that the water's not touching the plate. And we're going to get this going so that we can bring it up to a boil. We're also going to add a tablespoon of cornstarch to the pork mixture. And mix this in until all of the cornstarch is kind of mixed in and dissolved and you don't see any more of the white. Still stirring in one direction. Commentaries from the cat. I wonder what his issue is.
The issue is, feed me.
Probably. It's dinner time, isn't it? Right, you want a dish that is going to be safe in the steamer. If you don't have a wok, you can use, I don't know, however else you steam food, whether in a pot or even using the Instant Pot will work. We're going to put this into the plate.
And when you're strapped for time on any given weekday, you're gonna get this on the table quick.
Yeah. This will feed your family of 4 at the very least. You can add different things to it too. My mom used to crack a salty duck egg in the middle sometimes, and sometimes she would put a little piece of salted fish in the middle just to give it an extra flavor. And my dad's favorite was probably stinky shrimp paste that he used to love in the various dishes. So you can put a couple of tablespoons of that in here and it'd be really delicious. Okay, once the water is boiling, put your pork patty in there And we're gonna cover it and we're gonna let it cook for about 20 minutes. All right, it's been 20 minutes. Just wanna lift up the lid so that it's not gonna drip water into your plate. I'm gonna turn off the heat actually, because I'm almost out of water there. So I'm just gonna poke it in the middle to make sure it's cooked through. And I can tell it's pretty, I guess, hard. It's not hard, but it's firm. Thanks, dude. Being very careful as you lift it up out of the wok. Smells yummy. I have some chopped up cilantro and green onion that I'm gonna add. It just adds some freshness to it, but my mom never added anything green. Oh, I know why my mom never added anything green, because my dad didn't like anything green. It just occurred to me. I think it'll be yummy with the cilantro and green onions on there. I am starting off with 6 cloves of garlic, and you can use more if you want. We used to have friends that we ate at PPQ with, and he used to joke that he would only eat there with us because we're that good of friends that we can like stand each other's garlic breath after.
Oh boy.
You can use more if you want. If you don't want as much, you can use less, but it really is the whole point of this dish. I'm just going to put them through the garlic press, but you can chop it up if you want. I just think if you put it through the garlic press, the garlic gets more dispersed evenly.
It's I don't remember the last time you've done a recipe without using the santoku or the chef's knife.
I don't have anything to chop today.
It's that easy?
It is. I'm just going to put it all in a bowl first so that it's easier to deal with when we start cooking, because the cooking part of it actually will go really fast. So it's really important to get all of your ingredients ready to go. So we have about, I want to say 2 to 3 tablespoons of garlic here. If you're using like already minced garlic, like that's how much you would need. All right, I thought I'd show you the difference between spaghettini and spaghetti. So the spaghettini is much thinner and it only takes 5 minutes to cook on the stove. And the, let's see, regular spaghetti, I don't know if you can tell the difference, takes 9 minutes to cook and these take 5 minutes.
Yep, I can see that it's the spaghettini is finer.
Oh, sure, you can see it now, can you? All right, I'm cooking a pound of pasta. I'm doing this right now because I wanted to show you that I'm gonna throw this in the pot while I prepare the rest of the ingredients. And yeah, because we want the pasta cooked and ready to go. Okay, I'm getting my sauce ready to go. I already have 2 teaspoons of sugar here. You can reduce the sugar or omit the sugar altogether if you like. You add 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon of fish sauce, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, and 2 teaspoons of sesame oil. Just gonna stir it up, make sure that the sugar is dissolved. I use brown sugar because I find it dissolves more quickly, but you can use regular sugar if you like. Oh, it smells so good already. I think it's the sesame oil.
Oh, I can smell it from here.
Yum. So I'm also using Parmesan, and you're probably wondering like what? But this is what we call fusion. We use a little bit of ingredients from the East with ingredients from the West, and we make a new dish with it. And the Parmesan just kind of brings it all together. So I am using my microplane here, and we're just going to grate about ½ a cup of Parmesan cheese. My cheese is breaking up on me.
Let's not grate your finger in there.
Let's not. So I'm just gonna leave those bits. It'll be fine. The kids will love it. They love bits of Parmesan like this. I want the majority of the Parmesan to melt. If you use too big of a grater, it won't melt. All right, we have our wok ready to go. We want this on a very low heat. Okay, we're starting with 1 tablespoon of olive oil. And we're adding 4 tablespoons of butter, unsalted. I'm gonna melt this in here. See if I can turn it down a little bit more without turning it off. All right. So I'm going to add my garlic now, because we want the flavors to just really meld in there with the butter. And we're going to cook this for about, I don't know, 2 to 3 minutes. And we want it low and slow so that the garlic doesn't burn. You can see the garlic is cooking now. All right, if you want it a little bit hot and spicy, you can add some crushed chili flakes at this point, but we're just gonna leave it like this. And I've already drained my pasta, and we're just gonna dump all of this in there. And the pasta is done to just al dente, which is just cooked through. I'm gonna use my tongs.
The aroma, awesome.
Garlic and butter, what's not to like,
Yeah.
right? And just make sure that the pasta is separated, like all the noodles are separated. Now we're gonna pour in our sauce. Oh my goodness, it smells so good. I think traditionally, this dish is made with a yellow noodle, like a Chinese yellow noodle. But since I have this spaghettini, I thought I'd use this, and I like the texture of the pasta in this particular dish. And even if you don't have spaghettini, you can make it with spaghetti, and it would be just as yummy. And everybody has access to spaghetti. Now turning off the heat, and I'm adding my Parmesan cheese, and we're just going to melt it all in here.
This visual here with the wok and the Parmesan cheese being sprinkled on is kind of like a cultural mashup, eh?
It is. All right. So let's get this started. We're going to bring the water to boil. I have already put a steam rack in there. If you don't have a steam rack, you can just ball up aluminum foil, like 3 of them maybe, to hold your dish above the water. And there you have a DIY homemade steamer. I'm using 4 eggs today, and I'm going to crack them into my measuring cup because someone had taught me a cheat on how to measure the liquid to go along with the egg. So we want 1.5 portions of water or broth to egg. And what I normally do is I would crack the egg, and then I'd use a half shell, and I'd use 3 half shells per egg that I cook. And then it doesn't matter what size your eggs are, because it will, well, a half shell is a half shell. We have almost a cup of eggs. So I'm gonna pour the eggs now into a bowl. I'm just gonna beat them up a little bit. So I will need 1.5 cups of chicken broth or boiled water that has been cooled down. Like, I don't know if it makes a difference, but my mom says that it always has to be cooled water. Cooled boiled water. That's about 1 cup. I'm gonna pour that into the egg mixture. And then I need another 1/2 cup. And that's it.
You can't be serious.
Totally serious. And we're just waiting for the water to boil now. The water's boiled, and I'm gonna put my plate in there first so that we're not like trying to balance a plate of liquid, and then pour my egg in from here. Okay, you can cover your egg if you like, but I know that my wok lid isn't going to drip water into it, so I'm just going to leave it. You know what? The egg plate doesn't look very balanced. Let me shift it a little bit. Okay, we're going to steam this for about 15 minutes. I'll check it at 12 and see if it's done. I'm going to make a sauce that we're going to drizzle over the egg and our veggies today. So I have half a teaspoon of white sugar already in there. Can you see it?
Nope.
It's right here. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of soy sauce, and just this light soy sauce, and a tablespoon of oyster sauce. The sugar is in there to balance out all the flavors. A teaspoon of sesame oil, and about a quarter teaspoon of ground white pepper. Okay, we're just gonna stir this together. Okay, and set this aside. I am using Chinese yao choy, or it's also called choy sum today. We're using half a pound today because there's only 3 of us having dinner tonight. And I've already cleaned them. I soaked it in water with about a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons of salt, and just let it soak for about 3 minutes, because that will kill any of the insects that may be hiding in the flowers or in between the stems. And then what I do is just gently run water in between each of like the leaves to make sure we get all the dirt and things out of the vegetables. If you see any open flowers, they'll be yellow. That's where insects like to hide. That's what my dad used to tell me anyway, so I'll just pluck them off. But these ones are fine. They're actually quite tasty. It's the most tender part of the vegetable. After I've cleaned them, I just want to trim the bottom of the stem because that's where it's dry. I had these growing in the garden. These are chives, so I'm just going to cut up a few of them to use as garnish. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can use green onion if you like. It just adds a little bit more flavor to your dish. So I'm just going to quickly chop some of this up while everything is cooking. I also made some rice. So I started the rice before I started with the egg. So your rice will be ready at the same time as everything else. It's been 12 minutes and I'm just going to check the egg, but I want to make sure that none of the condensation is going to drip into the egg. So I'm going to carefully remove the lid by tilting it to one side. All right, I think it's good. So we just want to make sure that it kind of jiggles without being wet in the middle. And I'm just going to take it out with my oven mitts. I actually think that it is much better made in the Instant Pot. I can make it without any of this ripple effect that's happening around the egg. I'm not sure why that's happened today, but I think it'll still be tasty. I know it's not perfect, but it's all about the taste, isn't it? In real life, you'll be making your veggies at the same time as your egg is steaming, but because of our setup here, I have to do this separately to show you what we're doing. So we're bringing a pot of water to boil on high. I've already added about 1 to 2 teaspoons of salt into the water. So we're just gonna wait for that to boil. Meanwhile, I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of vegetable oil. And then we'll get our veggies going. Veggies only take a minute. So this is how my mom does it. I think the salt just adds flavor, and the oil makes it like the mouth feel better, because when there's no oil, it is more like it sticks to your mouth. Anyways, the water's boiled, and we're gonna put the whole stock in, and we're just gonna cook this for a minute. I'm gonna push the leaves in. You can use a bigger pot, but I always use this pot. And my mom also says that greens taste better when you cook them whole like that versus cutting them up and cooking them cut up. I don't know. Anyway, so that's why I do it this way as well. Also, it's easier to take out, bigger stems to take out. Okay, it's been about a minute. And you'll see there's a nice sheen on your vegetables as you take them out because you put the oil in there. I knew it. I'm so impatient. Okay, that sauce you made, we're gonna drizzle some on the egg. About half of it. And then we're gonna drizzle the rest on the veggies. And garnishing the egg with the chives.